Hi guys, and welcome to SME Insights. Today I am joined by Ash Rookwood. Hi Ash.
Hi.
Ash is the founder and CEO of New Creations. It's a company that he has set up during this time of lockdown to be an incubator for those people that have a criminal record and that are discriminated against in the workforce. He is joining us today to talk to us about his business, his startup journey, which is relatively new, and to tell us a little bit more about the difficulties that people experience from those diverse backgrounds, for example, having criminal records. So Ash, tell me a little bit about why you decided to set this company up and why now?
So I found that applying for a job was difficult. So I'm someone that's got a first-class grade of honours and a criminal record, and I struggled to secure employment. And at the end, I managed to secure employment through a friend, and that I don't think it should be like that. And I think if I've got a decent degree, there's guys out there that don't have a degree. What chance do they stand of securing employment through the conventional routes? So I spent some time at a tech startup company, which, as I said, I was fortunate enough to be given the opportunity through my network. And I found that, working in a startup company was so fascinating for me. And I felt, that after speaking to a few ex-offenders and seeing their faces, seeing that they were downhearted, dispirited, downtrodden, I felt like a sense of, I felt like a calling. I felt like I, could support these guys, and maybe I had the responsibility to be the change that I want to see. So I decided that I will start my own business incubation program, and I will support these ex-offenders with being entrepreneurs. So I think that's probably the most viable way of these guys securing employment anytime soon, I suppose, especially with the current state of the economy, and also society has got a long way to go before we see any justice for ex-offenders. So I'm just doing my bit for social reform, you could say.
I love that, and I love the idea. So you're a bit of a social entrepreneur, kind of coming out at this time in an environment where things may be tough, and it will be toughest for those people that are disadvantaged. Some might say, and this is an argument that I would have heard, well, they've done something they shouldn't have done. They've been tried by their peers. They have a criminal record. Myself as an individual, I need to make sure that I'm working with people that have the same values. What do you say to that?
Well, I think, people make mistakes. I don't think anyone's perfect. No one's infallible. But at the end of the day, if we're talking about punishment and rehabilitation, I think a prison sentence serves as the punishment. And I think rehabilitation is given an individual the opportunity to live a different life, to take a different path. And I think if you're not going to provide that individual with the resources, then what do you expect? You can expect a perpetuation of the current cycle. So, if we really want to break cycles, then let's break the cycle. And I feel like, who am I to judge? End of the day, someone might still go on to reoffend, but, we would hope that by providing them with the knowledge, a mentor, finance, all the essentials that they need to start a business, that this could be the thing that diverts them from crime.
So tell me a little bit about the plan and how you see this working. What is it? What are your first steps as CEO and founder? What are you doing now?
So at the moment, we're working very hard behind the scenes to create a business incubation program, so one that's suitable for ex-offenders. So we will be taking into account a lot of their needs. Being someone with a criminal record, I feel like I have invaluable insights into what it would require to create a suitable business incubation program, one that they could successfully complete, and at the end of it, potentially have a business idea that can be taken, and we would support those guys to turn it into a viable business. I've got a strong team around me, a strong team of professionals, angel investors, a director that's already that's directing a business incubator currently, and the amount of support I've received for this idea has been amazing, and it just demonstrates to me that there's definitely something in this, and there is hope for society. So I think people have actually stood up and thrown their hats in the ring and said, I'm happy to support. So yeah, I've just been I'm excited about the future, and I'm taken aback by the amount of support I've got for the idea, which it shouldn't feel like that, but unfortunately that's where we are in society at the moment.
Great news on the investment side, because that's the hardest thing I think is, because regardless of whether you're looking to bring people into the workplace or you're bringing people, or you're offering finance, like this, I imagine the same discrimination kind of applies. You are going to, people go, well, how's that going to work? We did it with people that want it. Those questions come up, and we were just talking just before about the reality is like with a criminal record, it's kind of, it's stamped, it's a tattoo, isn't it? It's a tattoo of your life. Whereas many people may have done things that they may not have done, but the tattoo isn't there. How does that affect people from, coming straight out? How does that affect them? And how does that change their experience of society, really?
I think upon release, these guys are instantaneously marginalized. And I think, if you already feel like you're on the fringes of society, then why would you then migrate to the center of society? You probably wouldn't, and that might be out of fear, which is understandable, or it might be because of guilt, which again is understandable. Because I believe that a lot of these guys are remorseful, and, when you've got the press that sensationalize and don't ever look at the context of offences and what was going on for the individual prior to the offence or at the time of the offence, I think, these guys are too often portrayed in a negative light, and I just feel like it's not giving them a chance at all. And then look at how that feeds into society's perceptions. Like a lot of society at the moment probably don't have any sort of relationships or understanding with anyone with a criminal record. And if you don't, how on earth are you supposed to understand someone like that? Like, how do you empathize? I think you should be able to empathize, but it makes it easier if you do have a reference point. And if you don't, then you just don't. And, unfortunately, a lot of the time, people just don't have that interest. Then this could probably feed into the employment sector. And I think, we'd have to look at risks and, look at how rational risk is calculated by the majority of employers, or is it just downright discrimination? Like, who knows? I prefer to say that it's more to do with a miscalculation of risk. And, we have to understand that when we are making decisions about risk, we have to be sober in our judgment, and we have to, manage our fears, manage our anxieties, and, we have to have a sober mind. And I think what we might see in the future is a lot more leaders with the requisite soft skills to manage people from all sorts of communities, because the world is quite diverse. Like, it doesn't just contain people without a criminal record. It contains people with criminal records, disabilities, different ethnic backgrounds, with different nationalities. So, why are leaders not equipped, or decision makers not equipped with the skills to manage everyone? Universal skills.
Totally. And I wonder if, I was going to ask you a question. Are you, knowing the route that you're on now, are you grateful for the experience of your criminal record right here, right now?
I'm abundantly grateful. I think it provided me with an opportunity to reflect. During that time, I've done a lot of introspection, and I really found myself. I think when you're growing up on the South London estate, I know it's the story that you probably hear often, but that was just the reality for me. When you're growing up in the South London estate, and you're exposed to all sorts of things such as gangs, drugs, violence. I think if that's all you're seeing, it's quite difficult, and I think it's probably unfair to expect a teenager to be making rational decisions in such an environment. And then you've got the argument of is rational decision making contextual? So does it depend on the context that you're in? So if you're in a gang or you're from a South London estate, you might, choose to fight to defend yourself, which might seem rational to the individual that's involved in that fight. However, if you're from Chelsea, or maybe, an area where the crime rate's low, and you hear about something like that, that might not seem rational to you, especially if you're not prepared to empathize. So I think it's opened my mind. It gave me an opportunity to study with the Open University, which is a brilliant institution. And unfortunately, from what I've heard, is that you can't study with the Open University unless you're in the last 6 years of your sentence, which, again, what hope does that give guys that have received 20 years, maybe 15 years? These are guys that, of course, if you've committed an offense, you should be punished. But also, we must remember that they must be rehabilitated. Otherwise, we're not really solving the problem. These are people that, need to be supported. They need to be healed, but they need to be given the resources. And I think, when you look at, these guys and you compare the kind of finances that go into like the NHS, and which is a brilliant institution as well, it's almost like physical health there's more emphasis on physical health as opposed to mental health. And, we have to, be honest with ourselves and say that mental health is a big factor in why, people commit offenses. Obviously, everyone's different, offenses are different, but I would say, like intuitively, that mental health is a massive factor. And if that's the case, then, just like if you break a leg, you go to hospital and you get the requisite support, the public, there'll be an outcry if someone had broken their leg and they was on the corner of the street, crying and needed support and didn't get it. Just like if you're, you've committed an offense, you go somewhere and to be rehabilitated, to be supported, to be healed, to be patched up, and that's not happening. Like, why is there not the same sort of public outcry? Because effectively, going back to the analogy, we've got people that might be released with a broken leg. So for me, it doesn't make much sense. And, I'm pretty sure in the future, there will be, social reform, and I think the criminal justice system, will be reformed.
It's so interesting that you are saying, for me, the minority angle is never just, you can be a minority in your thought process. You can be a minority. I mean, there's obvious, there's racial, there's socio-economical, I don't think there's kind of the sex orientation. The minority is never just that one thing, is it? The diversity of people is so huge. And that one thing, I mean, you were saying of kind of being brought up in London, South London estate, people have always heard that story. Well, that to me is the disappointing point. Like, oh, you've heard that story before. Yeah, we've heard that story before. And is there any surprise that people in that environment where that becomes your real world, because that is your world, come through that? What do you think? I mean, this is a big question, right? But what do you think helps to stop that and help that before it gets to that point? Is there anything that could have helped you to get past that point quicker, or to be outside of that world?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think ultimately it's about individuals taking responsibility for their lives. However, I appreciate that is
as a child, because you're a child, you're growing up through that. Like, is that I don't know how much you can be responsible at that age. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's too much responsibility for a child. And I think, some exposure to the real world, because let's have it right. When you're walking around or you're roaming the streets and doing whatever you're doing in those sort of environments, it's not the real world. And, people can be under the illusion that this is the real world. And it's not the real world. It's so limited. It's confined. It's short-termism. It's not. And it's unsustainable, and I think, I think mentorship might be a way. I think to have guys that maybe haven't grown up in that environment, or people that have grown up in that environment, reach out and help one. I think that's something that's missing from society, a lot. I think I think very few people are selfless, and I think there needs to be more of that, because, we're all in this together. Like, I think that's just been lost over the years or over the decades or centuries. And I think, you know, if there's one young person on an estate and he's suffering, then I think we're all suffering, but as long as that's happening. So I think we all need to work together and, you know, reach out. I think if everyone helps one person, I think that makes a massive difference, you know, a massive difference. And then, you know, you will see a compound effect where that individual that's been helped might reach out to help someone else or help two people. Who knows? And it continues. And I think this is not a problem that can be solved overnight, but certainly we can, you know, make inroads into solving the problem. So I think mentorship would help to address this issue.
And so I would say to you then, how are you now how do you see things progressing for you and your kind of social entrepreneurial journey from now during lockdown to the point where lockdown finishes? And what do you need to be able to support your business?
So we're at the stage where we're currently testing this idea and we're working diligently with our target market. I believe that we will be able to support these guys, and I believe that a lot will hinge on the business incubation program. Are we going to be able to create something that will be suitable for the ex-offender community? And I really believe that we will be able to, and I hope we'll be able to. And we're pretty much open to feedback from everyone because we want to make sure that this actually does what it says on the tin. And I think the proof is going to be in the metrics. So we might be looking at, you know, program attendance and, you know, and in the future, looking at how it's impacted the reoffending rate, or maybe just our cohort, how many reoffended. And I'm pretty sure that, you know, if we can give these guys the self-esteem, the confidence, integrity, some really core skills, I believe that they can go on and, you know, be leaders and also support other ex-offenders by employing them and potentially just employing anyone. I don't see any reason why these guys can't employ someone without a criminal record. As I said, we're in this together. It's not, you know, us versus them. It's like we're looking for cooperation. We're looking for, you know, inclusivity. We're looking for, you know, just, you know, you're born right to, you know, to be able to live your life without, you know, prejudice and discrimination. So I'm very optimistic. And as I said, I've got a great team with me that, you know, will fill in any knowledge gaps that I have. You know, I'm pretty open-minded myself. You know, always trying to, you know, acquire wisdom. I've, you know, got like tremendous amounts of support, and I'm abundantly grateful for, you know, the resources that I've got at my disposal. So, you know, I'm really looking forward to the journey. I think also NaviStar will play, you know, a major part. You know, I've looked into, you know, NaviStar, and I feel like, you know, we're going to require in-house lawyers sometime soon, and potentially these companies that, you know, we are going to help to create will require, you know, will require lawyers too. And I think it's a brilliant idea. I think the fact that, you know, small to medium-sized companies have been, you know, neglected in the past when it comes to legal advice is, you know, it's been quite unfortunate. Yeah, it's quite a shame. You know, we understand that it's difficult when you've just started a company to, you know, have a full team because of, you know, financial issues, and it's that whole and it's about prioritizing. But for me, I think having a lawyer on board is priority. I think, you know, they've got wisdom that, you know, if you haven't studied law or you don't have any experience in the legal sector, then, you know, I think you're missing a trick. I think, you know, you can even look at a program show like Billions, you know, and you see how their lawyers on a retainer and, you know, involved in every single strategic decision, you know, as well as like all the sort of like misdemeanors that Axe Capital gets up to. But, you know, I suppose you get my point. So, yeah, I think, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the future, and yeah, partnerships for me is the way forward.
Definitely. Oh, thank you for that. We'll definitely take that snippet and we'll put that on LinkedIn. Yeah, that was fun. No, just kidding. Because I think for me, watching people grow and watching entrepreneurs kind of kick into, you said it's like you're growing leaders. And I think just peer-to-peer conversations like this, where somebody's starting something up, they're in that new phase. Like, it's an exciting phase. I really am excited for you that you're doing something that you're super passionate about, that's going to move things forward. But I'm also going to suggest to you, don't just limit it to that group, make it work for that group, but also open it up to others, because I think there are going to be plenty of people out there in the not too distant future that are going to be starting businesses without that understanding, without those leadership traits or qualities. No, they have the qualities, they haven't yet had them pulled out of them, and they're not there yet, got the confidence to shine. It sounds like you're going to really be in a position to do that. Yeah, I think it's wonderful what you're doing. I think it's great to kind of just step in that direction and do something new, and particularly something that's for the social good. So yeah, thank you, Ash, for joining me. How can people get in contact with you if they want to invest in your new idea or provide some support or some of those knowledge gaps? How can they get in contact?
Yeah, I think if anyone wants to get in contact with me, please connect with me on LinkedIn, so you can find my profile, Ash Rookwood.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Ash. Really appreciate you being here today. Thank you, everybody that's come to watch. Hopefully you can be a part of the social change. We're being told the new normal is coming, and I suspect that Ash is a part of the new normal. He's going to be one of probably hundreds, if not thousands, of social entrepreneurs that are starting out their journey and that are really going to be making an impact for the greater good, for increasing purpose and entrepreneurship and leadership in this world, but particularly for a disadvantaged group of mostly men. I'm going to work on the basis of mostly men. Good luck, Ash. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you.